welcome back to the next episode of the Sensible Mama podcast. Today, we have two very special guests. First and foremost, we have Dr. Jenny of Momma Bear Chiropractic down in Florida, and the most adorable little puppy guest. This is my first time having a puppy on the show, so I'm very honored. This is Teddy. Very happy to have you both.
So cute. Hello, hello.
All right, yeah, so tell us what you do.
So I am a chiropractor who focuses on pregnancy and pediatrics, specifically newborn to age 3. My youngest I've ever adjusted was less than 2 minutes old. I've tended a lot of home births, but every day and every minute is a good day to get adjusted. I used to be a family chiropractor, but literally I've just felt honed in these last 10 years to just focus, and especially the last 5, pregnancy and pediatrics.
That's so amazing. So amazing. So I acquired a respect and a love for, I've always thought, chiropractic is great, it's whatever. But I actually was an office manager for a chiropractor up here in Connecticut for a couple years. And the things that I saw that chiropractic can do, I don't think people really know. They're like, oh, I have back pain, so I should see a chiropractor. You're not wrong if you think
Right.
that. But let's talk about what can it do for somebody who is pregnant or even maybe, looking to get pregnant, perhaps.
Love it. So I used to do fertility work. I was known in Southwest Florida when I worked for somebody else as fertility. And I did it through chiropractic and nutrition. So there's dozens of little squishes on this planet right now through that work. So if you are struggling to conceive, I used what was called the Schaefer protocol. So look for a provider that does the Schaefer protocol, especially if they would have to specialize or focus on pregnancy to be able to be trained in that as a chiropractor. But that's the technique that I used. It was at the time an 8-step protocol, including chiropractic. It was a game changer. I have gotten out of that work and now I just focus on pregnancy. So I'm what's called a Webster certified chiropractor. So that is specific to pregnancy, and that's making sure that the sacrum or that butt bone is totally aligned. And the reason why that is, and now I call this a baby, I call squish. So you might hear me say that. I like to go over the words I might be using. So this is baby squish. Everybody's a squish inside the tummy and outside the tummy. One, because they are so squishy to the touch when you adjust them. But let's just, for the sake of this demonstration, pretend this is an adult. So the sacrum is this bone right here. And the baby sits behind this bone. And the communication line, if you will, a cell phone connection, if you will, between mom's body and baby comes to the back side of this. There's a huge bundle of nerves, which is like a cell phone connection. So the better that this is, not only is it the tires, if you will, of the car, it's the foundation, it's also the communication to the baby. So this is the first and foremost bone I check on every single pregnant mama. Now, right above that is called the lumbar or the low back bones. When these are at a place, that's the mom that has constipation and or diarrhea, which is never pleasant in pregnancy, especially towards the end. One of the signs when a mom is getting close is she likes to poop her brains out. And the reason why that is because when she bears down, she thinks she needs to poop, but that's the baby coming down. And the body is brilliant and says, no, let's evacuate before we do that. So if mom is constipated, if these low back bones are in a place, she doesn't get that, and then it makes birth a little bit harder. Then these bones in here are called the thoracics or the mid-back bones. These tie into the fight-flight response of the body. So often it's really locked in here, the pain between the shoulder blades. That ties to tend into adrenals, which is that go, go, go survival mode, which is great, but if it doesn't turn off, mom doesn't sleep well, doesn't poop well. She goes from 0 to bitch in 2 seconds. She can't handle the kids. The things that she could normally handle go down to less than that, and then she feels like she's a failure as a mom, and this cycle dwindles, right? And then we have the neck bones or the cervical bones, and these tie into brain fog, digestion, irritability, posture, gut health, brain fog, like all of that. And then you have the cranial bones, which people don't talk about. There's 22 up here, right? These could also be out of place. Now, this bone, the sacrum, and the occiput, which is the topmost bone here, work together to help make sure we move. And the jaw and the sacrum are sisters. So when mom says, I'm having TMJ issues, I know that we have a sacral problem. And therefore, and it leads me backwards. So by focusing on pregnancy, we talk about function. In my office, I only talk about function. Pain is a real thing, and it's what drives most of us to go in to get help. But why is there pain? And I want to go to the root cause. So in my office, are they pooping well, sleeping well, less brain fog, more mobility, and ideally third trimester is squish the baby in an ideal position, which is head down, right? After 32 weeks, we want to make sure that head is down. Now, I'm never, ever, 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 ever adjusting squish inside a mom. Okay, I'm always adjusting mom and making sure the squish has enough room in their house. I adjust squish when squish arrives. Okay, and so people go, oh, chiropractors flip breech babies. Breech babies mean the head is up and the feet are down. We don't flip babies. We adjust mom. So mom's house for the baby has enough space so squish can go face down and come out vaginally. So those are the things I talk about a lot, and those are things that I didn't know. I mean, I was a chiropractic assistant for 10 years back in my late teens and 20s, and we focused on more adults. But I watched the chiropractor adjust a baby. I didn't know that. I didn't know when I was focusing on senior citizens when I first got into chiropractic. I was working with dementia and all that. That's the way I thought it was going to go. And it was a mission trip to Brazil that opened my eyes to children. And it was the last day. I was really one of the only ones that knew how to adjust a pregnant woman in a very old school technique, literally from the 20s. And she was to this day, I've never seen a woman so pregnant. And she got off the table and had like a 7-hour labor, like a day or two later. And I was like, okay, God or whatever higher power, if you're looking for a message, I think he just gave it to me, like it was like that, a calling, like light bulb. I was focused on end of life. And what if I need to focus on beginning of life? And I came back to the States a changed woman. It was incredible. I was only seeing children that week. There was 18 of us doctors, and I had a line waiting for me. And some of my colleagues had no patience, and because it was all pro bono. It was all for free. We were just gifting care, and it was a way to help, give back. And I was getting upset because now my colleagues are upset, and I've got a long line, and no doctor wants a waiting list. And I was getting frustrated, and it went on for 2 days. And on the third day, the translator came up and said, do you know why these families wait for you? And I was like, no. And I was honestly, genuinely like upset. And she said, because you're the baby whisperer. What? I have goosebumps just thinking about, just retelling. I said, what do you mean I'm the baby whisperer? I'm focusing on old people. I'm just here helping, families who come in. And she's like, no, they wait for you. And then I looked back that night. We got back to the hotel, and I looked at all the photos that had been taken of me all week, and I am ear to ear grinning, adjusting these kids. I didn't know how to adjust kids. I was scared out of my mind. I was like, I was afraid I was going to break them because it wasn't my specialty. I was doing, their spines are the same. I was just using less pressure and whatever. But my smile was ear to ear, and I was like, what? So I went back in the next day, and I was a little bit more excited, and I was less grouchy about it. And by the end of the week, I did that pregnant girl, and I was like, I think that's what you're supposed to do. And I literally came back to the States and started that next week pediatric training. It was a game changer. And now, and then I worked for a chiropractor in Southwest Florida. He's world renowned as a pediatric chiropractor. He teaches, and I learned so much. And then I went on my own 6 years ago and opened my office. So I have one office in Clearwater, and I thought it was going to be this little thing just to help, get people by, because, I was taking care of my dad at the time, and it just exploded. It was such a needed thing. I had no idea. And I got so busy during COVID that I opened a second location about an hour and a half south of me, because people started driving up from they started hearing about me and what we do. And I call it miracles. And I use the word loosely, but not, because miracle is something that you don't expect. And I have seen miracle after miracle after miracle with chiropractic, with those that want to get better and want to be helped. I have seen things that you can't unseen, miraculous, life-changing, life-saving things. And so I call it miracles. And the word of mouth got out. And so the demand was so high, and my life had come to a standstill with COVID, that I just put my head down and got to work. And now we have 2 big, beautiful practices. And we've been on a wait list for a really long time, and it's an honor. And I've had to hone down. I used to take teenagers, and I used to take dads, and I honed it down to under 7, and then last year I had to hone it down to under 3, and now it's just, if you're pregnant and newborn, that's the only thing I could take right now because the wait list is too long. We had 5 babies last week. You never know when a baby's going to come. My schedule's full, so I'm staying after hours to get the baby checked to make sure the baby's latching on mommy, which is great because I don't mind working extra, but there's sometimes I can't because I have to get on a plane to a seminar, or there's another mom in labor, or, so it's a crazy, crazy life, but it's been a game changer. And so I travel around the States as much as I can to spread the message about chiropractic, because there's women out there that are literally struggling and suffering in their pregnancy or postpartum with their body or with the baby's body, and they don't know that chiropractic is an answer. So when we got to meet, we connected, I was like, yes, another mom who's on the same page as me and wants to learn and share the message and the hope of an alternative world.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Like, and traditional medicine, in my opinion, has sort of failed us, where we don't do education. We don't rely on the patient or the client or whatever to take responsibility for the situation themselves. What I've discovered, and I know you'll agree with me, is that with chiropractors are very passionate about educating their patients.
Yes.
I mentioned to you, I used to work for a chiropractor, and he'd be adjusting me, and he's always telling me what he's doing and why this. And I remember one day I used to have an hour and like 10-minute commute to his office because I was a crazy person. He's a really good chiropractor. And I would drive, and one morning I woke up and I couldn't turn my head. And I have to drive on this highway and I can't merge because I can't turn my head. And I was like, what's happening? I don't know. I slept on it. Who knows what happened? And I walk in and I barely even sat down on my desk. He's like, what's wrong with you? And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, yeah, okay, come on, let's go back office before everybody gets here. Let's get you fixed up. In like a minute, he had me completely back to normal.
Yeah.
Another time, like my eyes were burning. And I'm like, it's my eyes. Now my husband works for an eye doctor, so I'm like, I should go call Nick and, find out what the problem is. And he's like, well, let's do an adjustment. Let's just see if it could help, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he came over, and it was like, it went from like a 9 on a level of, 1 to 10 scale of pain. It went from like a 9 to like a 3, and by the end of the day was gone. And I'm like,
Wow.
chiropractic is so underrated. It's not just for, nervous spasms, or it's not just for spinal pain. It's not even just for headaches. It's like the whole thing is your spine has some really important stuff in there. There's nerves that control literally every single body function, right?
Literally.
Like to the point where like your eye's burning, that is not a chiropractic issue. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But like, is it a body issue? Is it connected to some nerves?
Yeah.
Is pain and discomfort, like all of these things are interwoven, and so like the holistic view, right, is what I'm after. And it's always been obvious to me that I'm like, the body works as a cohesive unit.
Yes.
You don't just, target one area if you're having a problem, because it's probably connected to something else. And so
Yes.
the more I went into this and the more I looked into it, I was like, between diet and chiropractic and exercise and lifestyle and getting outside, I'm like, these are all holistic. And holistic, people think, oh, holistic, you're wearing like a burlap sack and, slinging essential oils at people as they walk by, right? Like that's
Totally.
kind of the picture that some people get. But
100%.
literally the word just means whole or complete, right? And so like the typical standard, I use sort of derisively, the standard method of care is if you have a problem, you get some sort of medication or procedure to fix that one problem. You don't actually get to the root cause because you're not taking the entire body in as a whole system, a whole unit, right?
You got it.
And so that in pregnancy especially, like, so I did want to ask you about, people hear the term Webster technique a lot.
Yes.
What is that exactly, and why is it important to look for that versus, I mean, I know a million amazing chiropractors, but if they're not Webster certified, what does that mean and why is that important?
I love that. Okay. So Webster is a guy who founded it. It's a guy's name. He was a chiropractor. The Webster technique takes into account this butt bone and its communication to the baby, the body, and the entire pelvic floor. Okay, so this is the pelvis. Okay, and we're looking down the pelvis. So girls have 3 holes. We have the vagina, the pee hole, the vagina, and the poop hole. Okay, I was 21 before I knew that. Isn't that funny? I didn't know. I worked for my chiropractor, and she goes, "We have 3 holes." I said, "What?" I thought we peed out of the vagina. I didn't know. So now I make it a point to know, because I'm like, if I didn't know, maybe others didn't know either. Anyways, so what we're doing, and so as you look down, so we're looking like down the pelvic floor. See all those different muscles, all that pink, all the different pink? Those are massive muscles that hold the bottom of the pelvic floor. And then above that is the cervix. And guess what? When squish comes out, the hoo-ha, the squish has to push against that cervix. All of those muscles need to open up and squish comes out. The middle hole. And the thing is if the pelvis, I'm going to dramatize. This isn't how, I mean, some women come in this way, but let's pretend the mama comes in like this. Where's squish positioned? Is squish going to come straight out? No. So this is where we have the stuck labor. This is where we have the baby get stuck in labor, because mom's pelvis isn't fully aligned quite often. And so the communication to the pelvic floor and all those muscles I just showed you, they're not in communication, they're not balanced. So one side is usually working harder than the other, and then you have failure to thrive, or failure to progress. So now, do moms who have been adjusted the entire time, can they still have it? Sure. Do we rule out a lot of it? Yes. Okay, so I'm not saying chiropractic is the end-all be-all, but it's miraculous. And the thing is, it's better to be fixed and rule out more and more and more of the chances of not having a vaginal birth than not, right? But so what happens is mom comes in, and we take what's called posture photos when mom first comes in, and they, because we don't x-ray, and it looks at, when we take the mind out of it, because we do it with the eyes closed, and we change the mind, and then a lot of my moms are standing there and they're like this, and then from the side they're kind of tucked like this, and then I show them, I go, this is what your body looks like. How is that baby lined up to come out? Because it's got to come out your hoo-ha. I call it a big thing out of a little hole, and it becomes this eye-opening thing. And I said, good, we're going to work together in the next 6 months to help make sure that this squishy comes out. So the Webster technique is a technique that helps balances the pelvic floor and balance the bones of it, and therefore the muscles of it. Because we are not pelvic floor therapy people, that's a different profession, but we do work hand in glove, and you should definitely have one, especially if you've ever had a squish, and especially if there's any failure to descend, or if you laugh and pee, cough and pee, hurts to have sex, you can't orgasm while having sex, go see a pelvic floor specialist. That's a whole topic for another day. But seeing a chiropractor and helping making sure that's all balanced, and that the brain and the body is talking to each other so we have ultimate function, that's the Webster technique. So here's what I tell people. I said, I can't adjust a sports person. I don't take men anymore, because they're like sports people. They do dumb stuff to themselves, and they only come in when they're broken. Bless their hearts. I sound like I'm complaining. I'm not. It's just, that's who they are.
I'm laughing because it's very accurate.
But
I have 2 boys. They're 1 and 3. I couldn't agree more.
Totally. I don't know how to adjust a guy anymore, and I definitely don't know how to adjust sports people. So I say to my men especially, and because they get it, I say, look, would you have a baseball coach your football team? They're like, no. I go, why? It's a ball running around a field, and a bunch of men are chasing after a ball. Why wouldn't you? Because it's a different technique. I said, yes. And that's why you want somebody who's Webster technique versus just a standard chiropractor to take care of you, because they are specifically trained to handle the body in that way. And they get that. And I go, and that's why. And we're not all the same. And if a mom has had a crappy experience with a Webster certified chiropractor, it's just like anything. You are going to find a bad apple in any profession, any religion, any politics, anything. The thing is realize it's one bad apple. It's not the technique. It's not the religion. It's not the philosophy. It's that person was a bad apple. Acknowledge it, move on, and find somebody who's a better apple. So to find somebody like me, so I go to the ICPA, the International Chiropractic and Pediatrics Association, the ICPA, and you put in your zip code, and it will literally pull up anybody who's trained like me, and you have to, the Webster certified is the keyword you're looking for. But I found that the more initials they have behind their name means they've done the full diplomate program, which I'm mid, and that's tons of hours and a huge exam you have to sit for. But if they have a lot of initials behind their name, and then you click on their website and you go to their website, here's key. If you see squishes when you open up the website and pregnant babies, they do pregnancy and babies. If they say they're Webster certified and you go and all you see is x-rays and sports medicine and car accidents, probably not the one for you. Okay. So, for example, if you go Google me on the ICPA, I don't have all the initials after my name. I have Webster certified. But you click on my website, the first thing you see is squishes and babies and bellies and fun and blah, blah, blah. You know I'm doing babies, right? And then you go to my social media and all you see is the babies, right? So you have a good chance I might not have all the training and blah, blah, blah. But then you stalk me more and you realize that, I've done an additional 1,000 hours just in the last 3 years of training in pregnancy and pediatrics. You'll see that when you stalk my social media. You want to go to somebody like me. Am I the right person? My personality, I'm over the top, I'm in your face, I'm a 3-year-old, I'm covered in Minnie Mouse and hearts and rainbows all day long. I'm not for everybody. But it opens the door for somebody to go, okay, she's not for me, but who else does it? And then they begin to go on a journey. And when I first began, like a decade or so ago, there wasn't many of us in all of America. There was, I think, less than 1,000. Now there's like 5,000 or 6,000 of us, which is still low, but more and more are getting trained and more are finding it. So there's people trained in neuro, meaning like just specifically neuro, how the brain works. So kids that had brain injury, brain trauma at birth. My best friend in Cape Coral, Florida, she specializes in that. She's literally become a brain expert because the brain is, every time I adjust you, I'm adjusting the brain. I am a brain chiropractor. The brain is what controls the entire body. So every time you get an adjustment, you change how the brain works. But she took that next level and is like she's handling miracles, right? There's others that focus on ADHD and others focus on kids on the spectrum. And there's others that focus on Lyme injured children, right? So you got to find what you need in your niche, but they are out there. They do exist. I have people traveling from New York. I had a mom labor with me. She flew from New York to help. I got her through the last 4 months of pregnancy. She labored with my favorite midwife. I got to see the squish for 2 weeks and then they drove back home. I've had people come from other countries. I've had people come from around the States. They come in and they get help. So if you're willing to travel, and I'm not saying come to me. I'm saying they exist. Find your vibe, find your tribe, because if you meet with it, that's when you heal. If you're with somebody, I don't care what profession you're talking about, if you don't vibe and you don't want to vibe, the likelihood of healing and help goes out the window. And so it's just like find your vibe, find your tribe.
Yeah, it's funny. I just had a doula, Taylor Mack, whose birth you attended. um, she and I were talking a lot about assembling your birth team, right? Like assembling your little core group of superheroes. It's the same thing with anything, with birth especially. Like to me, the fact that a woman can grow a human, first of all, is crazy. It is magical and deserves so much respect. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
I never thought about it until I had my own kids, where I'm like, you see a pregnant lady and you're like, oh, yay, you're a pregnant lady. It was happy. Someday I'll have a baby.
Yes.
And then you actually experience it and like, it's supernatural. It's not an ordinary day in your life. You know what I mean? Like you're doing something incredible. You're doing something powerful, miraculous, and magical.
Yes.
And it needs to be treated as such by you and by everybody around you, as far as I'm concerned. Like open the door for pregnant ladies, pick up their groceries and bring it to the car for them. They are goddesses as far as I am concerned.
I agree.
But now you, as the pregnant mama, you need to also take that on and be like, I'm going to make a birth team that is going to support the exact vision that I have for this birth.
Yes.
And that starts way before due day, like your chiropractor needs to be on the same page as you. If your OB/GYN is not cutting it, this is what happened to me. And they weren't bad people. They weren't like, abusing me. There was nothing dramatic. It was just we were not on the same page and I couldn't seem to get on the same page. And it was, you do as I say. And I was like, educate me. And they said, this is just the way it's done. And I was like, I'm not feeling this.
Right.
And it got to a point where I was like, this is bad. And I was with it enough. And now I understand. And I'm so happy that I listened to my intuition, but now I understand like what you're saying. I love, it's quotable, find your vibe and find your tribe, right? Like, you need to find the people that are on the same page as you, the people that are going to support your vision, because you do know what is best for your body. Nobody knows your body like you know your body.
100%.
You know what I mean? And if people are not going to support what you're trying to do, why, like, you're already doing something so massive, and it's a large undertaking. Like
Yes,
it's not something small.
totally.
Don't add additional stress to it. You know what I mean? By adding people into your life that are in any way not jiving with your existence. I don't know. Like it's
Totally.
yeah.
Totally. I want to talk about that because that's powerful. Um, yes, I'm pro home birth. But for example, just yesterday, I had a mom who had a home birth for the first one, and we were talking yesterday. She goes, "I really want a home birth. I love all the care from my midwife and stuff, but I also want peace of mind of a hospital in case I need. Are you, you know?" And she basically asked, "What do you think about that?" And I was like, "Girl, you know your body better than anybody else. And if you want that peace of mind for the what ifs and the oh shits, then that's what you need to do. Do all your prenatal care with your midwife and then go to the hospital at the end. That's what they're there for. And here's the hospital I pick and I choose." And she goes, "Would you be okay with that?" I was like, "Would I be okay?" I was like, "Girlfriend, this is your..." But here's why I mentioned this. She was looking for permission to trust herself. And a lot of my mamas do that. Because what, social media, movies, books, everything tells you to go this certain way. And just like you were like, "Oh, I have goosebumps. My gut says not to do that." And so they're looking for permission. Excuse me. Home births aren't for everybody. Hospital births aren't for everybody. Birthing center births aren't for everybody. But here's the thing. 120 years ago, before hospitals existed, we were all home birthed. And when I say it that way, it kind of and I say that to my moms that are struggling. I was like, "I really want a home birth," but I go, 120 years ago, before hospital existed, we were all home birth, unvaccinated home birth children. You know what I mean? And it's like it resets the tone of, and that was only 120 years ago. I'm not talking a million. I'm not talking 1,000. That was 120. That was 2 generations ago.
That's not a
Three
long time ago at
generations.
all.
And it helps reset. And I go, just sit with that and see what peace you find. And if you want to go to the hospital, go to the hospital. If you're comfortable in OB, do an OB. If you want a midwife, fine. If you want a free labor, if that's what you think you want to do, who is anybody to say otherwise? But I am thankful for modern medicine. It has saved lives. But I've come to realize it's taken me years. And I'm going to say this about the medical field. There's a lot of losses in the medical field. Okay? There just is. And for people that have never had counseling, PTSD training, like anything. So if I'm a doctor and I've lost even one baby, but let's say 20 or 30, that's very real. And I've never had counseling about it. I've never had I can't talk to anybody about it. When I was a firefighter prior to chiropractor, when we had major disasters, we would sit around and we would talk about it, like a form of talk therapy type thing. And it's a very specific thing in the firefighting world, and cops get it too. And it helped us grieve. It helped us work through it without using drugs, without using talk therapy, right? And a lot of these doctors don't get it. So then they become stoic, and then they have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of insurance. And so unfortunately, we become number 1 on Monday. You're at number 12 on Tuesday, right? We become a number because it's a way that they keep themselves still able to help people through all the losses. But we become a number, and then they want to protect because they don't want you to be another loss. And when I finally looked at it from their point of view, and it took me years, I have a lot of grace and empathy for them that they still show up every day. But when they really push my mamas, to get induction at 37 weeks when there's no rhyme or reason for it, I go, "Mom, look at, they're just trying to save their license, or they're trying to protect you, or they've had losses, and you are the last loss sometimes, especially if they're having a bad day, if they didn't get sleep, if they're not well fed. Those things are happening. Their mind is going crazy just to have the willingness to show up the next day to work. So give them empathy and fight your case. And just know that they're trying to protect you and make sure you have a baby at the end of the day." And I've been having these conversations, especially a lot in the last 6 months, and it's been a good game changer because it helps the mom in front of me with a frustration, and it also validates 99% of the doctors out there are really good people. They just have a lot of losses.
Yeah, you took something that I believe and you put it into words that I've never been able to quite put it into. That is such a great viewpoint. I love that.
Yeah, thank you. It took me years. So I wanted to say that for your people and anybody watching this, and then for the birthing team, you made an excellent point. So no matter where you have your baby, I don't care where, in a tree, in a car, I don't care, in a mall, in the hospital, in a bed, Dr. Seuss, have a doula. Have a doula. Your husband, bless their little hearts, 75% of them should just hold your hand and love on you and do whatever you need. 25 are really good doulas, actually. 25% of them are amazing doulas. If you're the touchy-feely mom who wants your husband to hold you and get in the tub with you, great. Let him do that, and then have a doula who's going to feed you the honey and wipe your cloth and pick your poop out of the pool and, you know what I mean? Tell you what to do and help breathe, and let your husband love on you, right? So doula, no matter where you are, and one that you love and trust. I have an amazing one down here. I have a couple, but the one that I use the most also teaches a birthing class down here, and she's had all the type of births that you could have. And she's a feisty little Latina. So she's like, what's your birth plan? What do you want? Good. And then she's your advocate if you ever get pushed into a door. Because sometimes dads are like, I don't know, bless their little hearts. I'm not complaining, but there's some truth to
They
that.
haven't done this either.
Exactly.
A lot
So
of the time, this is their first time. Like, how do we expect them to suddenly become professionals in something that they've never done?
exactly. And they're watching their wife, go through this stuff, and they're like, ugh, So doula, no matter what birth you want, I really support a doula. Obviously, having a chiropractor that you know, like, and trust, and then trusting your medical team, whether it's your midwife, your OB, your whoever it is, trusting them. And if, like you said, I think what you said was brilliant. I mean, I've had a number of moms halfway through their pregnancy, they're not vibing with their OB, and they switch. The thing is, I'm going to put this out here, it's hard to switch at 8 months. So if you're getting red flags or icky vibes at 4, please switch at 4. Don't wait till 8, because then the other OBs are very hesitant to pick you up.
I can vouch for that. I did switch at 8 months. I was literally that mom.
Yeah.
I was 8 months pregnant. I had just gotten over probably having COVID. I never got tested, but I imagine it was COVID. I was a mess.
Yeah.
And we were going through the whole gestational diabetes screening, and they're like, well, you didn't fail the test, but you also didn't pass it, so we're going to induce you early. And I was like, what? No.
Right.
Anyway, so whatever, everybody knows the story that listens to my podcast, but I
Yeah.
called my husband crying, and I was like, we're having a home birth. And he was like, cool, what are we going to do? How do we do this? Teach me.
Love it.
And I found a midwife literally 8 months pregnant. I was still getting over COVID. So I was like, can we do a Zoom call for our first appointment? But I can attest, it would have been a lot easier to not have done it that way. Like, and totally, like, the second you start, your intuition is brilliant.
Yes.
Like, and I was getting hesitant vibes in my belly, pretty early on, where I was like, is this actually what I want? But everybody does it this way.
Right.
And so this other influence kept coming in on me, and it wasn't me,
Totally.
it was friends and not even intentionally. It's not like people were like, don't do a home birth. It wasn't
Totally.
even that direct.
Totally.
It's like subliminal messaging of the world. You watch a movie and they're like, oh, the crazy crunchy home birth mama, meh,
Totally.
and there's all this doubt already. You're like, hormones are crazy and your sleep is questionable. Like, pregnancy is a concoction of crazy. It's nuts. And I was like, and thank God, I was so grateful that I did at 8 months say no, because I wouldn't say 100% certain, because you can't be, but I'm pretty sure had I ended up in a hospital, the baby was in fact big. My labor was 23 hours. I had my pelvis was not adjusted. I had to do like rebozo to get him, like, he was like this, and I needed him like this, and
Yeah.
he was just like, I want to go this way, and I was like, this way, and it was like a whole thing. I didn't know how to push. Like, I got
He's still
exhausted.
doing that with you too. I want to go this way. You got to go this way.
Literally, he's 3.5, and he's still doing that. But I am pretty certain that I would have been convinced to do a C-section, because at a certain point in my labor, it wasn't moving. I wasn't progressing. I was miserable. I was exhausted. I wanted to tap out. I was like, and I think that it would have been convenient for a hospital staff to say, okay, you want out. We want this over with. Let's just do a C-section. And in that moment of vulnerability, I may have caved. Again,
Totally.
it's hard to say, I don't know what would have happened.
Totally.
Woulda, coulda. But
Yeah.
I suspect that's how it would have ended up. Um, and C-sections are C-sections, and you get a C-section when you need a C-section. Like you said, I'm very grateful that they exist, and if I ever need one, I want somebody there who is able to provide, that service for me.
Totally.
But it wasn't necessary, and what I needed in that moment was a doula, and she got in my face and she said, girl, we're going to do this, and you're the one that's going to change your mind about whether or not this labor continues or it doesn't, and we can't do that for you, and You need to change your mind. You need to get your head back in the game. What do we need to do to help you do that?
Yes.
And so instead of a C-section, I had a doula. And that doula kind of gently and lovingly smacked me in the face and said, knock it off. You
Love it.
got work to do, you know?
Love it.
And I did. And I got my head in the game. And then my water broke and it was game time. And everything just like instantly shifted.
Awesome.
So, and that's not to say that's everybody's story. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like every birth
Totally.
is 100% different from every other birth. That is undeniable.
100%.
But like you said, like let's rule out all of the things that we can through
Yes.
natural means
Yes.
before we opt for pretty major. Like a C-section is not, it's a routine procedure and they have it down pat. Like it's not that it's a dangerous procedure, but it's a major procedure. It's not something small, you know?
Totally.
Anyway.
I want to talk about something that kind of leads up to two C-sections. I have found that I want to talk about that kind of ties in something that you said.
Yeah.
38 weeks to the end of pregnancy. 120 years ago, we had a village around us, right? We had moms, aunts, sisters, tribe members, right? Tribe of whatever you want to call it, right? You weren't alone. And now in 2025, 2026, 2027, 2024, especially I'm in Florida now. A lot of us are transplants. We are down here by ourselves and our spouse. That's it, right? Mom and dad is somewhere else, sister's somewhere else, etc. We don't really have friends because now we got kids, and who's got time for friends when we got kids? And it's a thing. It's a thing. Women are working to the end because our finances are different than they were even 100 years ago, much less 50 years ago. So we have women that the household depends upon their income as well. You've got the stress of that. You've got the stress of still looking good and feeling good and doing everything to the end. And I am now having conversations. I had a new patient just this past week. She's 24 weeks. I said, I'm going to talk to you about something already. I'm already seeing stuff with your body, and I'm going to talk to you about what I predict. One of the greatest gifts I have, because I do 1,000 bellies a year, right? I see a lot. They begin to tell a story after a while. And I said, I might be wrong in this, but considering this is the only thing I do, I'm going to tell you what I feel. I said, I need you to think about ending work somewhere between 36 and 38 weeks because your body's already showing me signs that it's being overworked. And in that last time, I need you to slow your roll and I need everything off your plate. I said, you are the only one to get this baby out. I said, the laundry could be done, the bills could be paid. I said, let's say you make $1,000 a week or even two. Let's just $2,000 a week. So you're going to lose $4,000, but a C-section is $45,000. So you're actually saving $41,000 if you slow your roll. I said, your husband can pick up another job. He could sell a kidney. You could sell a car. It doesn't matter. You could eat rice and beans for a month. But I want to tell you now at 24 weeks, so you have 14 weeks to prepare, that I think already that you're going to need to slow your roll. And I had a new patient 3 months ago. She came in at 33 weeks. She was tighter than tight and tight. She was fight, flight as she walked in the door. High stress HR job. Just the whole office would shake when she'd come in. And I said, at 38 weeks, I need you to slow your roll. It was so unreal to her. I just told her week after week after week. I said, you're going to get to 38 weeks. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to give crap about nothing. And she didn't believe me. 36. 37. She comes at 38 weeks. You were totally right. I don't give a crap about anything. And I said, right. But she's been listening to me, so she was slowly turning over some of her jobs and whatever. And the last 2 weeks were brutal on her because she didn't, so I've done both ends. I'm not trying to be right. I'm just trying to help my moms feel cause. So I say this to say, at 38 weeks, there's a role that changed. You were a single woman, you partied, you had fun, you traveled the world, blah, blah. You were a career woman, blah, blah. And then this man or, partner stole your heart, and then you became a wife. And then you became a pregnant woman. And now there's a hat that we have to put on of mom. But before you can get that squish in your arms, you hormonally need to be in sync. Squish needs to know it's safe to come out. Squish will not come out if it's a dangerous environment, right? And if mom is running her butt off, she's not pooping, she's not eating, she's stressed out, she's arguing, she's stressed about finances, her husband, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Squish is like, I'm going to stay in here. It's good in here, right? And so there's a hat that needs to happen. And so like even last 3 weeks ago, I had a mom. I was like, I'm telling you, come 38 weeks, you're going to get you need to end. You need to end. Sure enough, she comes at 30 weeks. She's like, doc, but I still got to work. And I said, today's your last day. And she's like, I've been thinking that for the last 2 days, but I just couldn't do it. And I said, today's your last day. And it took her 10 days to unwind. 10. She's like, I'm going to have nothing to do. I was like, oh, believe me, sweet pea, you are going to have tons of stuff to do. Sleep, eat real food, poop your brains out, take baths, take walks, reconnect with you as a being. This is your last couple weeks as a family of two. Go on a date with your husband, sleep all day, eat bonbons. I don't give a crap. Just chill and slow your roll and connect with your squish. And 24 hours after she finally able to slow down and connect with the squish, guess what? We had a baby this weekend,
It's
right?
amazing. You're telling my story. With every story, it's like I was working. My job was not very stressful when I was pregnant with my first, but it was still work. I was still working a 9 to 5. I was working from home, but it was still a 9 to 5. And I the day before his due date, I took the day off, and I was like, okay, yesterday was my last day, so the 3rd of January was my last day at work. The 4th of January, I was like, I'm gonna go and just have a meeting. And I don't know what possessed me to do this. I didn't have a you telling me to do this, but it just made sense. And I, with my big old belly in January, it was like cold as all get out. I was like, I'm gonna go get a pedicure. I don't do this anymore. I used to do this all the time. I went and I got a pedicure and I sat and I let somebody massage my feet and I like read some articles about pregnancy on my phone while I went to the store first and I got myself like a sparkling juice or something, whatever. I
Yes.
indulged a little bit. I was like trying to be really good because I had this gestational diabetes scare and I was like, I'm gonna get some like something that makes me happy, something that's not too bad, but also is just gonna bring me a little bit of joy. So I
Totally.
got like Spindrift or something and a snack of some sort. I was sitting there, I was like, I am a princess today. And I
Yes.
and I allowed myself to be. I don't do that. I'm like, that is not how I roll. I'm usually like, I can wait. I can get my thing later. And then I was like, no, this is me day. And I did. And I was like, okay. And I did that. And I went and I walked around TJ Maxx for a while. And I didn't need anything. I was just like, let me do things that make me happy. I went to a restaurant and I had food by myself. Like, who
Yes.
does that?
Totally.
Weirdos do that. But I was like, I'm just gonna like be weird and just enjoy this day. Just have a
Yes.
good day by myself. And it was spectacular. I was so happy. I was like, no stress. I was like, this was so much fun. I should do this all the time.
Totally.
And then 24 hours later, I went into labor. And then 23 hours later, I had a baby.
Right.
It was like you're saying, like it's totally, it's a different pace. And then even more so with a second kid, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because now you have the mom hat, but now
Yep.
you're a mom of a toddler or
Yes.
whatever you're a mom of. And that comes with its own, I don't want to call it stress, but it is. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Yep.
Like, did he eat? Did he poop? Did I remember to give him his vitamins? Do I need to schedule this activity? When's his appointment for that? Blah, 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 whatever. Did he set the house on fire? Is he
Totally.
climbing up the chimney again? Who knows? And it's a lot, man. Like, and now you have to let this little one inside you know, like you said, like, hey, this isn't a dangerous environment. Your brother's not gonna set fire to you. It's okay. Like, and you have to, the way you communicate that is through the nervous system and through your hormones, right?
Yes.
Like, that's how you communicate physically
Yes.
with your baby. I'm, spiritual and all that
Yep.
aside, because
Yep.
I believe that that's also something that
Totally.
happens. But on a physical level, you signal to the baby and to your body through hormones and through nerves and like, we talk about breathing techniques. Like when you breathe a certain way, you're resetting certain things in your body. You're actually changing your hormonal structure and thereby communicating to your baby, like, this is what's happening and we're okay and it's safe. Out in the wild, when I don't know, an antelope is giving birth and then a lion runs up, the antelope stops giving birth and makes sure that they run away to a safe place where they can give birth.
Yeah.
Now, we're not antelopes and our jobs are not tigers, but they might as well be, right?
Totally. Totally.
Where your body is like, it's not safe. If you're like, and you're like you said, like fight or flight, and your adrenaline is going and your cortisol levels are up and your oxytocin levels are down, like there's a whole concoction that communicates things to your body. And so your job is like, get happy, man. Be
Yeah.
happy and
Totally.
do the things that it takes to be happy
100%.
physically and emotionally and spiritually. And if you and your husband are fighting, sort that stuff out.
Absolutely.
Like, go get an adjustment, go have a date, go just enjoy a night out, go for a stroll in a pretty park. I don't know, whatever it is, and everybody's gonna be do your thing, whatever your thing is. If
Totally.
it's kayaking, go kayaking. If it's, eating a fancy meal, go do that. If it's watching a cool movie and enjoying time with friends, do that.
Yeah.
Like whatever. Do the thing that makes you relaxed and happy and unstressed because and it's not just like there's the side of it where it's like it is of course nice before the baby comes to like spend a little bit of time before you get into the newborn poop diapers and all that jazz. But there's actually like a it's science backed, you know what I mean? It's not just because it's nice. It's actually necessary.
100%. Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. I want to cover one more thing as a brief little nod for those women watching this about postpartum. Because you mentioned a great thing about toddlers, like a mom who's already had one. So when you were pregnant with your first, if you wanted a nap at 2 in the afternoon, you took a nap at 2 in the afternoon. Now, if you have a toddler, however old that toddler is, a nap at 1 in the afternoon is only if the toddler's down and the homework, the housework is picked up and blah, 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 right? So postpartum, I come from a very holistic background, the way I was trained. You're in bed or on bed or near bed for 21 days. Okay, the new thing is it's hard for women to do that, so it's down to 5 days in bed, 5 days on bed, 5 days next to the bed. That's 15 days. That's 2 weeks plus 1 day. And a couple reasons why that is the placenta, which is what you labored after the baby came, literally gets ripped off the wall and comes out, and it's this big, almost the size of my head. And I'm sorry, I thought I had I have the demonstrations. So, anyways, another video, but that has to heal. And if it's on the outside of your leg, nobody would have you out of bed. If that was on your leg, oh my God, stay in bed. What are you doing? But because it's inside and we don't see it and it doesn't hurt, we forget, right? So if we're doing too much, that's the bright red blood, after the baby comes. So I want to talk about that, either 15 days or 21 days in or on or near bed. I want to talk about that. 2, I want to talk about latching. So latching is where a baby goes onto the boob or onto a bottle. And this mouth, so I do a 22-point exam just of the mouth alone. Okay, I put a glove inside the mouth. I'm in the state of Florida. I'm able to do that. There's some states like Georgia I can't. It's against my scope of practice. But in my state, I can go in it and I feel the bones of the roof of the mouth, the jaw out of place. Which often, whether it's a home birth or a hospital birth, this jaw is the jaw that gets pulled a lot when it comes out. So we have a jaw that's out of place. So the jaw could be out of place. I check the motility and mobility of the tongue. Is it doing what it needs to with the wave? Is it pulling in the nipple or the boob or the bottle? Do we have lip and tongue and cheek ties? I can't technically diagnose, but I've been trained by a pediatric dentist who's now retired to look for them, so I could refer them out to somebody because they get so often missed, and I'm finding them more and more prevalent since COVID. And then I actually grade the latch, and then I adjust all that and the upper neck bones and the head bones that tie into it, and then literally in the office I give the baby back to mom and we nurse right there, and 85 to 90% of the time we have a drastically different latch. The reason why things to look for latch: does my baby have a good latch? 1, if your nipples hurt, we don't have a good latch. If they're bleeding, you do not have a good latch. If you hear air when the baby's nursing, you do not have a good latch. If you hear clicking, that's a sign of a lip or a tongue tie. If they're not putting on weight, if you see the milk drooling down their mouth, they do not have a good latch. If your entire areola, or pretty much all of it, so you have the nipple and then the circular thing that goes around it, if you can see it, they don't have a good latch. They should have most of that, if not a half, if not all of that in your mouth. So going to a chiropractor that's trained how to do that is first and foremost, when people don't think about that, and obviously a lactation consultant. So in the last few minutes I wanted to drop at least, because women don't know chiropractors know how to do this. It's not necessarily fun. The jaw adjustments aren't necessarily fun. It takes me about 4 seconds per side to adjust it. However, especially if the mouth, just 2 weeks ago I had a baby, this is it, the baby cannot get onto the boobie. This is as much as and then of course we have failure to thrive because the baby, and then the jaundice that doesn't go away, and then mom is trying to, and her nipples are bleeding so much, and she's like, I don't know what's happening. Your baby's gumming on you can't open the mouth. We literally adjusted the jaw. Then the mom's like, oh my gosh. I was like, yeah. She's like, I didn't know. I was like, and this is why I scream it from the mountaintop, and why every opportunity to at least drop that nugget. So women watching this, maybe somebody doesn't believe in chiropractic. Okay, but they've heard this video or somebody told them about the video. You never know what seed this is going to plant for oh, well, I heard this crazy chick on this sensible mom, I don't know, this podcast, and she talked about chiropractic adjustment. How weird, right? And the other mom go, really? You know, like you never know how far reaching our communication is. So I just wanted to drop that nugget before we left. So to help anybody and know that might be an answer and a solution. And obviously, I prefer breastfed babies, but there's some women who don't want it. They can't handle the sensory, or it hurts too much, or there's issues. Fine, but they want to pump. Great. And there's others that just can't or won't. Fine, bottle feed, but they still have to have a good latch so we don't have extra air, so we don't have colic, we don't have constipation, and a whole plethora of other things, which is another time for another day. But I wanted to drop that nugget for your mamas so they knew that there was a solution out there that's not necessarily yet common, but I'm working on it.
Now, we do only have like 10 or so minutes. If we go a little over, that's okay. But I do want you to talk about one more thing, if it's okay with you, because we talked about this on the phone, and I do think that it's important. We can do a whole deep dive in a future podcast episode. I'm totally down with that. Sex after giving birth. Can you just do a little like 5-minute spiel on this topic?
Yes. Okay. I have goosebumps, so that's yes. So we'll do this another time too, because I actually have the placenta. I have a knitted placenta. So the placenta is what, like I said earlier, is you labor out. It's literally attached to the lining of the inside of your wall, and it's where the umbilical cord is connected to that goes to the baby. So the baby comes, and then the umbilical cord is literally ripped off. So not only did you just birth this baby, this 8 to 14-inch head out of a little tiny hole, and all that happened with that, think of everything that got dilated, but then that placenta has to heal from the inside. Okay, it took 9 months to make that baby. It can take up to 9 months to heal the body back to normal. That includes hormones, that includes pelvic floor muscles, that includes the position of the pelvis, of the sacrum, of the tailbone, especially if the baby came out posterior, sunny side up. That means that the baby went across the tailbone, and the tailbone is usually out of place, and the tailbone is the back corner of the entire pelvic floor, so now it hurts to poop and it hurts to have sex, etc. Anyways, so medical doctors, approve sex after 6 weeks. I'm not a medical doctor, don't pretend to be one. However, I had a dad in my office. The mom had the baby. I could almost tear up. It was an emotional thing. 2 days after she had her first baby, he was pounding her for sex. And they're in my office that day for an adjustment, and I about ate doo-doo on him. I was like, what? And yeah, she won't have sex with me. I was like, bro, I actually thought he was kidding at first. Yeah. It was like, you know what I mean? Because this thing just came out of her hoo-ha 2 days ago. For the love of God. I wouldn't want to go in there if I was a guy. Like, come on. And I was like, what? He's like, it's been so many months since I was with her. And I was like, oh, this guy is serious. And I lost my poop on him. I was like, bro, are you freaking kidding me? But I didn't have any props or anything to give him reality about what happened. All I had was a pelvis. And I had a doll kind of like this, a play doll. And I said, this just came out of her pelvic floor. Do you know how much healing has to happen? She just labored, I forget what her labor was, 20-something hours. So it wasn't fast. It wasn't long, but it wasn't short. And she worked to push that baby out after carrying it for 9 months. And you want to go inside of her? She is healing so much. Plus, the cervix that got dilated, and you're going to poke against that. Like, all these things have to come back together again. And I just started explaining to him the anatomy of the body and what has to heal. And he broke down and he turned to her. He's like, I'm really sorry. And I was like, shit, if he thinks this, there are other men that think this. So now I speak about it on the stage. And in December, I was at a conference and I have all my props now. And I was like, gentlemen, we got to have a conversation. And ladies, you too. This is why I said, even before 6 weeks even 6 weeks blows my mind. But okay, I'm not going to cross my scope of practice. But if you understand the anatomy, there might be a reason why she doesn't want to have it. Anyways, so from the stage, I had the placenta, the umbilical cord, the baby, and the pelvic floor. And I explained birth and what has to happen. And I said, so pushing your wife to have sex, all of that needs to heal. And so don't, please understand this is what she's gone through. And yes, I'm sure she'd like to please you, but there's other ways to do so. Give her another couple weeks, right? And I just said it, and because I'm talking about it now, because if I didn't know these things, and I assume there might be one or two others that don't know. That's how I teach now. So the general stuff, and then here I thought I knew these things, anyways. So I was blown away at the end of the conference, this 80-year-old, because it was a medical doctor's, dentist, chiropractor's, naturopath, like it was a conference for there was hundreds of people in this room, and this 80-something-year-old man comes up to me after the conference. I don't know who he is, and he said, Dr. Jenny, can I talk to you for a second? And I was like, sure, sir. What can I do for you? He said, I just want to let you know something. I said, okay, what's up? He said, I really wish I knew this information 50 years ago when my wife had her babies. And that's all he said. And I just looked at him and I said, I get it. And it was like almost like you're forgiven type of thing, but not. And it was like, without saying the words, clearly he had done that to her. But now he could see like what it did. And so I don't know if she's still alive. I don't know if he's going to go back and say, I'm sorry. I'm sure she would love it if she did, even though it was 50 years, because she probably has some resentment on that. And so now I speak on the stage from that. It's not that your wife doesn't love you. It's just she pushed out this 6, 8, 10, 12-pound baby that and the hormones are going crazy, and the body takes a minute. There's other ways to have fun. I know you want to get off, but please, for the love of God, give her a minute to heal. So that's my 3-minute version. And I'm sorry to get so emotional, but it's so... The more I get into pregnancy and pediatrics, especially with all the additional training I've done in the last 2 or 3 years, and I've never been able to have children myself. Teddy, my dog that was introduced in the beginning, he's the only child that I've ever had this life. And so I was, there's things I do, and he's kind of helped make me a better mom in a sense. But the more I learn, and the more, like you said earlier, you guys are freaking super. Like, I didn't understand. Like you said, we don't get it. In 8 years, in my first probably 7 or 8 years in pregnancy, you're cute, you got a cute little belly, and you look good in your photos, and you give birth to this baby, right? Now I'm like, holy shit, you're a superhero, you're a woman, you're wearing an invisible cape, I don't know how you do what you do, how are you staying alive, what can I do to help? I'm in an airplane, this woman's struggling, can I help you? But I'm a stranger, so she doesn't want me to help her kids, and I don't want to get into that, I'm a doctor, and blah, blah, blah. But, it's like, the more I learn, the more I give, the more passionate and the more stories I get. And I get the people that have gone through so much, and I get to help them with the next pregnancy, make it go better, get a better birth story. And so I've learned so much, and it's made me so empathetic. And it's probably what draws people to me, because I can see the other side. I've helped hundreds of women go through it now, and I've learned from it while dealing with my own pain of never being able to have children, and coming to terms with, okay, that was the lot I got this time, but now I could help literally hundreds of other families a month. Because at this point in practice, if I had a squish, I would quit practice, because I'm going to be 50. I'm like, I'm not letting anybody else raise my squishy but me. And like, my moms are like, no, you can't leave. And I was like, oh, good. So when I have a letdown because your baby's screaming and now I need to go pump because my baby's somewhere else or in the next room, and I'm already running 15 minutes behind, and I'm sorry, well, I have to pump, and just so I could have a squish. Oh, well, since you worded it that way. But I say all that to say, you are not alone. No matter where you are in this world, find somebody that, whether it's a pastor at church, your best girlfriend, an OB, a midwife. There's so many amazing mom groups on Facebook. They're not all drama filled. You only need one. Listening to podcasts, listen to The Sensible Mama, listening to people, finding your tribe. You're not alone. Trust your gut. There are people out there to be helped. And trust everything that you know. Your mom gut, whether you have a squish earth side or not, is the strongest thing on planet Earth. My moms are the best doctors on planet Earth. You know your baby and your body better than any of us. So listen to it, because it is always right. And you find the person that will listen to you, because I listen to my moms when they come in and they're like, something's just not right. I'm like, okay, tell me, what do you feel? What do you see? And I will dig in and I will use all my magic I know how to use, and we will unearth it and we will figure it out. And if it's not me, where do you need to go? So they do exist. Do not give up hope. Well done on all you're doing, raising a family, taking care of your husbands or your spouses or your significant others, and keeping these humans alive, because Lord have mercy, it's not an easy job.
Dr. Jenny, you're an amazing human being, and I love you, and you're making me cry here.
I know, right? Well, that's how you know it's truth, right? Like, I was crying the other day on the table with a mom. Like, I'm unwinding this baby. This baby had 50 seizures a day. She'd been everywhere else. She's like, I don't even know what chiropractic is. 3 people told me I need to come to you. I found you on social media. I don't even know what you're going to do. And literally in the first visit, we went 50 seizures a day down to 5. That was this week. And I'm crying on the table, adjusting this little baby, because I could feel the release of this baby. And the mom's like, why are you crying? I'm like, it's coming from this kid. Like, this is life-changing. She's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm moving the bones. He has bones out of place. I'm like, oh. I'm like, But she was so desperate for answers, you know, and I spent so much time educating her. But when a mom is so frazzled that she's literally gone to all the neurologists and all the doctors and all the stuff, and it failed her, and somebody kept, you know, chiropractic kept coming up, she doesn't have the space to hear about this is the nerve and blah, blah, blah. She just wants
Yeah.
help. And literally she could feel her baby unwinding on the table. And she came in, she's like, you're a miracle worker. You've converted the entire family. Because that was one visit just this week. This was Wednesday. And I'm like, that's the power of chiropractic, because the nervous system can heal if there's nothing in the way. The body is the most brilliant gift that we've ever been given. I poo-pooed it for years. I thought it was just a machine. I didn't understand it. But it is actually brilliant if you know how to make sure it works properly.
Amazing.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
Perfect. You're hired. This is incredible. I'm going to have you back on. We're going to get more props. We'll deep dive into some topic, or 7 or 20,000. I don't know. This is amazing. I could talk to you for hours. Unfortunately, we are at an hour, so we're going to wrap up. I'll give you a moment just to shout out, you know, where people can find you again on social media and websites and so forth, and then we'll wrap up here.
I love it. So Momma Bear Chiropractic, Momma. Momma Bear Chiropractic is the name of my office. I have an office in Clearwater and one in Venice, Florida. So that's on the south coast of Florida. Go to the ICPA website. If you're, no matter where you are in the world, we are international now. Put in your zip code, find somebody who's close to you, then go to their website, stalk them, see if they're good for you. I'm on social media, Momma Bear Chiropractic. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. On Instagram is where I do stories every week. They're 90-second little educational. I do something different. Why you crawl, when to eat food, what does teething look like, how to kill parasites, you know, all those things. So they're 90-second videos to help train and educate my mamas, brief little things. Please go there. If you're local, I would love to take care of you. But if you're not, please just get under chiropractic somewhere from somebody that you trust that can give you the help that you need. And thank you for listening. I am so glad that you are here doing what you're doing. We all do things because of our story. And you never know how far your words will go. And I'm really excited for your journey and that you're doing this. And thank you for all the lives that you are going to save directly or indirectly. You're amazing.
Thank you so much. I love you. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you in the next episode.